What's going on, everybody? It's David Palmer, the Leo King, and this is my show, Uncut Astrology, where I take off the mask and go deep behind the veil and give you this week's astrological forecast for the week of May the 18th through the 24th of 2016. And it's 2016. Have you got on my app, the Leo King app, which is all about giving you daily astrology videos on your phone, computer, or tablet, all for iPhone, Android. We got on the apps. We give you daily notifications. We give you daily video horoscopes. We give you weekly sun sign horoscopes, weekly intuitive video, and weekly tarot video. And it's all with commenting where you can comment. It is such, well, number one, we are the most unique astrology app in the world. So make sure that you check it out, the leokingapp.com, or go to your iPhone or Android store to download. It's only $5.99 a month. That's it. Whew! A lot to talk about in the astrology this week. A lot. And I gotta be real. It's so funny. So many people always tell me on Facebook, they always say, you always say you have to be honest, or you gotta be real, or being an astrologer, it's like, it's not an easy job, I'll be honest with you, because it's not easy bringing up situations that are happening in the universe, and the world's gonna turn this way, and it's like kind of feeling like a backseat driver, a little bit, because I'm always like, oh yeah, turn left here, turn right there, and then people get annoyed. So I try to do it as best as I can, like, well, hey, I hate to be honest, like, make a left here, you know what I mean? Like, that's the best way I can describe it. Or I kind of feel like I'm in the movie theater and I'm the guy like, okay, so the next scene, the guy's gonna come in and he's gonna come in with a knife, like, it's like, oh my gosh, like, it's not easy being an astrologer, you're that guy or girl. Well, a lot happening this week. Number one, the sun is coming out of Taurus and coming into Gemini. That's probably the main thing. Believe it or not, even though there's a lot of transits happening, the sun switching signs is always the biggest transit, always the biggest week. So we're in a two-part energy this week. We are going from earthly, fixed, Taurus, knowing your worth. And last week I talked a lot about how building up to this week has all been about really starting to price check your life. Like, what am I worth? And am I going to build this? Am I going to create this? And this is the final call. This is the final call for you to really be like, I'm going to own this. I'm going to do this. This is Mercury coming out of retrograde this week in Taurus. So it's like, wow, we've really rethought about our value, the things we want to create for the last 3 weeks very intensely. And here we are, having to really step forward and really communicate with a sun coming into Gemini. There's gonna be a full moon in Sagittarius, and this is gonna be the first of 2 full moons in Sagittarius. So we're gonna, Sagittarius. So we're gonna talk about that too. But there's a lot of energy around needing to now speak up and really like move forward into that self-worth. But there's a final call this week, in relationships, in projects. There's this edge that's building. I say that because Black Moon Lilith is moving into Scorpio. It has been on the cusp for the last week, at the end of Libra, at the beginning of Scorpio, when it finally moves into Scorpio. And Lilith is all about, I'm gonna do it no matter what anybody says, and I'm gonna do it whether God says it or not. That's the whole story of Lilith. And when you mix that in Libra, and when you mix that into Scorpio this week, and it's moving into there, that zone right there is the end of the light and the beginning of the dark. So you gotta realize, like, that's when the dusk hits the true dark. And you have to realize that this is a spot where we are all going to just ravage our needs, our wants completely. And this is big time. I'm going to be very real with you. This is an intense transit. You really have to stand your grounds, really have to set your boundaries now. This is where Juno is as well. So I think that there's a lot of relationship-based stuff, a lot of relationship-based of like, if you're going to go on to this, build this, create this or not, the truth's going to come out. No matter how much you're trying to hold it in, you can't. The sun's coming into Gemini. Mercury's stationary, coming out of a stationary retrograde into direct, and it's in Taurus, and it needs to really express its worth. It needs to say what it needs to say. So there's a lot of like big conversations this week happen. There's a lot of belief stuff going on. A full moon in Sagittarius, the first of 2. Remember, this is going to be the first one, and the second one happens at the end of this Gemini transit. This is very rare to have 2 full moons in the same sign. So we're double dosing a full moon with the sun in Gemini and the moon, of course, in Sag. And this is all about beliefs, expression. This is all about the mutable signs. This is like a really intense time for you to really having to like get out beliefs. Mars is retrograding here for the last week in Sagittarius. It's going to come into Scorpio next week. So you have to see that this week is the last kind of big hurrah, I would say, of going for your big visions, really like karmic big visions, standing your ground, owning your value, and starting to express it and starting to move forward. The universe is giving a big, clear signal of things moving forward with Mercury coming direct. And finally, we will be in only 3 planets retrograde. So, it's like the universe is really starting to now move things forward. And especially with Mercury direct in Taurus, which is a sign about creation and building, it's like, okay, now we can start to build on these things. Now we can start to create on all these things. I'm sure there was a lot of things that went haywire over the last few weeks. But things are becoming much clearer. Whenever you get the sun in Gemini, it needs to become clear. But this full moon's happening with Mercury stationary. So this full moon wants to see it all. It wants to have everything, but there is a very kind of unclear thing, and I think you need to go with your gut on this one. And that's not easy for a full moon in Sagittarius with the sun in Gemini. Let me tell you, no. With Mars on top, it wants to know. Mars retrograde is all pissed off being retrograde, and it's in Sagittarius, it's all fired up, and it's saying, oh my God, I want to know this, I want to know that, and I got to know this, and I need to know, and it's opposing the sun. You got to remember, this is now the sun going to oppose Mars this week. Retrograde. So there's this clash, there's this battle, there's competition now. And it's like, who's on the team, who's not on the team? Are you going to do this with me or not? And there is this needing to know, and you're going to have to go with your gut. Not easy. Not easy. Especially with this Black Moon Lilith conjuncting Juno now. These are huge. Juno's retrograding into Black Moon Lilith, so it's like they're coming in. Juno represents kind of like the essence of the kind of twin or the relationships that you want in your life. Are the true, deeper inner wants on the same page? Maybe we had agreements. Maybe we agree about things in a certain way. But underneath, do you really like them? Do you really want them? Do you really feel that you want that? And that mixes with Taurus very well of this whole want-need thing. And especially the moon's going to oppose all this Taurus stuff this week. So there's a lot of checking on the inside and really then having to express yourself and having to really, like, I think in a very dominant, competitive kind of like, I hate to be honest, like really your own needs need to be met in a big way. You have big plans, you have big things to do, and it's like, the facts are right there and you need to express yourself this week. So it's going to be a very intense week with that. Standing your ground, speaking those things up. The other interesting aspect this week is Jupiter and Saturn are beginning their square again. And it's going to be pretty much exact this week. And guess what's in the middle of all this? Actually, in a weird position, in a quincunx inconjunct all the way over in Taurus, is Mercury. So as Mercury stops and goes forward, Jupiter and Saturn, Jupiter's trining Mercury, and Saturn is making a very unique, quincunx inconjunct over to Mercury. So this means Mercury, as it's stationing and going forward in Taurus of our value, is having a weird look at Jupiter in our lifestyle. Like, it's like, is this the lifestyle I really want to go into? And it's even taking a weirder look at our Saturn, our beliefs. And are we really believing that we can make certain things happen? Like, do we really believe that this is going to work? Do we really feel that it's all valuable? There's a lot of questions on the table. And especially when you add all this energy into Gemini and Venus moving into Gemini. Venus in Gemini is like really light, fast, and kind of like goes through people fast, goes through situations quick, reviews the paperwork and goes, oh yeah, whatever, okay, just get that. That feels the best. Let's go. There's going to be a lot of spurting energy as we get into this full moon, which is going to happen by this weekend. And it's going to be intense. I got to be honest with you. And it's going to be a little bit overwhelming with Mars retrograde involved, with a Mercury stationary direct. This weekend's going to go haywire. If you thought it was going to go one way, it's going to go a totally different direction. It's all going to be different. You're going to have to learn to go on the fly. And there's a competitive edge to this moon. There is competition. There is, and another way to look at this is just, feeling like, the world's against you or that things are against you. And I think that you need to be a little bit more fact and more positive about it and be like, I can win this. I can overcome this. It's not that the universe is out to get me, or it's not that that person maybe hates me. It's like, I just need to put up my own competitive edge a little bit. So if you're not a good competitor, if you're not somebody good with conflict, if you're not somebody good with opposition to you, against you, you're probably not going to like this week. I'm just going to be honest with you, especially when you're having to hold your value, and it's not going to be easy. These are not easy conversations this week. I just got to be honest with you. Mercury stationary direct, a full moon in Sagittarius on conjunct Mars retrograde with the sun in Gemini, and with the south, or with the black moon Lilith coming into Scorpio. Not easy stuff. This is like stuff that you have been wanting to avoid, that you have to bring up. But on the very plus side of all this, man, you could really explode into big new opportunities now. And I think that you have to realize that you need to learn to cut your losses and move on to win. That's kind of the lesson of a Sun opposed Mars full moon, is like learning to cut your losses and move forward, especially a Sun opposed Mars retrograde. Very rare. Very rare. This is a rare transit, folks. This doesn't happen all the time. Learning to cut your losses. I guarantee you're going to see somebody this week come out in the news or something, come out and say, I'm losing. I succeed. This is where you learn to succeed in certain spots of your life this week. And so you have to rethink about new directions now. And with Mars, retrograde in Sagittarius, it's almost like, well, there are all these other directions. But Gemini goes, let's just take the facts. It's like, don't get lost in the what ifs. Let's get lost, or let's get lost in the what is. Gemini is all about facts. And the big opposition is there's too many things on the table. And there's too many things on the table in your life that are going against you. And you need to pay attention to what's winning. Now I sound like Donald Trump, but that's a Sun opposed Mars. Where are you winning? And this week, it's about time to focus on only the things that you're going to win at, and stop focusing on so many things that are outstretching you that you're losing. Because you lose a war when you have put your armies into too many different places. And that's what happened to Rome. That's what happens. It happened to Alexander the Great. I mean, he did conquer all the way to India, but he did use all of his resources, and coming home, he lost everybody. And then he didn't even die at home in Greece, He died in a whole different city. And I think that you need to realize, it's time for you to not be throwing so much and everything. Gemini is going to throw it right in your face, be like, gosh, you're really heavy right now, aren't you? Remember, Sagittarius rules big old Jupiter, big fat Santa Claus. And Mercury and Gemini is kind of the elves, kind of like, you're real fat Santa Claus, what are you doing? You need to lose some weight, well, you got all this stuff going on. And it's like, oh God, where this week do you feel like this and you're overloaded and you're like, man, I could shed some pounds off a little bit energetically, and I need to kind of, slim down and be Gemini and fly around and float around and say hi, and how do you become lighter this week? Because what's against you is all that excessive weight. You got to remember, this is also Venus finishing in Taurus and stuff. Only holding on to the most valuable piece. That is the main thing. And with Jupiter square Saturn, it's like, in order to expand into your reality, you have to learn to make hard cuts on big opportunities. Saying no to opportunities is actually a way to say yes to other ones. So it's kind of an interesting paradigm shift. And let's see where this all goes. Don't let your beliefs this week of, it needs to be this way, affect you from really looking at the facts and looking at a lighter, easier plan and a more logical plan to go in the right direction. Because people are going to get real caught up this week with all this black moon Lilith and Scorpio, Juno, with a full moon on top of Mars retrograde in Sagittarius. It's like, no, I believe and I know this is the way I should go. It's like the facts say to do this, and that might not be easy. And there's going to be a lot of opposition in your life, and you're going to notice it's the own opposition you have about your own beliefs, your own self, your own head is battling itself. And how do you get out of that this week? And how do you have those hard conversations to hold your value this week? How do you have those hard conversations to really know your truth? Gemini is the sign of truth and message. And in many ways, this is not, this is just you communicating your true message. And to have this full moon happen while we are in year of the monkey, shows that this one is going to be a very wild ride. With Mercury stationary direct, I would not recommend traveling this weekend. I'm just going to throw that out there on a plane or anything like that. I wouldn't. I would avoid it like the plague. So I don't ever put out statements like that, but in a year of the monkey with a full moon in Gemini and Sag with Mars retrograde on top of it, opposing it, while Mercury stationary going direct, I would avoid traveling as much as possible. So anyway, thanks so much for all the support. If you want to watch my videos every day, please subscribe to my app, theleokingapp.com. Follow me on Facebook, David Lawrence Palmer. If you want to watch my live Facebook stream, I do that all the time where I talk about astrology and everything like that. And of course, inclusiveastrology.com if you want to book a reading with me, one-on-one reading. I can do it on Skype or over the phone. I'm booking for June because I'm finishing up a lot of readings I used to do a 15-minute reading, but I sold hundreds of them, and I've been doing that for weeks, trying to get those out to all the people. So if you want a one-on-one reading with me, that's what I offer now, and that's at inclusiveastrology.com. I just want to send a prayer out to everybody that I pray, and trust me, it's going to be fine this week. Just there's a lot of crazy energy, and it's stepping up for yourself, and it's really starting to make yourself lighter and focus on the right places to go. Focus is important, and this is a time to really focus on what is really important the most to you. Thank you so much for all your support, sending a prayer to you, sending lots of love and light, and I will see you on the next Uncut.